He said the problem with this government is they are fundamentally anti-British.
For the public have never taken to the man, which isn't necessarily his fault, that's just personality. But if you've got to call someone like that back to stick up for the government because everybody else on the front bench is actually worse than the worst prime minister we've probably ever had, then you know you're in trouble.
Ben Habib said in an interview quite recently, I can't remember where it was now, but he said the problem with this government is they are fundamentally anti-British. They don't care about this country, they don't care about its culture, its history, they don't care about the people who live in it. All they're bothered about is looking good to the rest of the world. Otherwise, you'd never do stupid things like giving away the Chagos Islands or attempting to, which is now looks like it's going to be blocked. He said that this government happily, if they thought they could get away with it, would sell us down the river. They're trying to put our armed forces into the EU. They would take us back into the EU. They would take us into the Euro. They would do anything to try and distance themselves from actually being British and the British identity. And in that, I think he had a very, very good point. I am absolutely convinced that Starmer was going to try and skip another PMQs this week because he's just a complete disaster anyway. I mean, Kevin Badenoch's not much better, but he's a complete disaster. And every time people see him, we've said this before, every time people see Starmer, sorry, they drop in the polls. He's very disliked. He's a very dislikable person. He's extremely disliked. And he was going to stay in Saudi or the Middle East or something and keep out the way of PMQs. But things were going so badly at home with people like Rayner having to go out into the media and make asses of themselves that they've said to him, you better get back here because this is going absolutely tits up. And if you've got to call someone like Starmer back because things are going bad, then you are in trouble.
Exactly. You have to call back your poorly performing leader who has no charisma, who has no public affinity. The public have never taken to the man, which isn't necessarily his fault. That's just personality. But if you've got to call someone like that back to stick up for the government because everybody else on the front bench is actually worse than the worst prime minister we've probably ever had, then you know you're in trouble. You couldn't make this is worse than an episode of Yes, Prime Minister.
It is, isn't it? I mean, if it wasn't so tragic for the country, it would be seriously funny. But he's just so bad. Rayner doesn't know what she's doing. You get Lee. I've spoke about lots of these ministers in the past. I mean, you've got Annalise Dodds. I mean, good God, the woman was Chancellor for a while, didn't know what she was doing. You got Rachel Reeves, who's taking us into recession. You got Angela Rayner, who's, quite frankly, is an embarrassment to working class people. You've got Starmer, who'd like to be working class, but he's a multi-millionaire. I can't think of one decent person. Wes Streeting is one of the favourites, believe it or not, in the cabinet. And people tout him as a future Labour leader. And he's far too smug and has got far too much to say for himself. And he is also very, in my opinion, a very contemptible individual. I can't think of one member of this cabinet who I would say, when Starmer's out, he's not if, I want to take over from him. I can't think of one.
Well, I can tell you who it won't be. It won't be Wes Streeting. I cannot see how the Labour government appoints another white man as leader who then becomes prime minister, because I don't know how they get away with it. Because for a party that goes on about diversity and equity and all that woke rubbish, to appoint another white man, I don't think their backbenchers will have it. I don't think a big section of their voters and party members will have it, which means we will get someone a lot worse than Wes Streeting.
Yeah, you'll get another DI. Sorry, go on.
Exactly. So we'll end up with a DEI hire. It'll be someone like Angela Rayner. It'll be it'll be a black person. It'll be a Muslim person. It'll be someone a lot worse than what we have now. And that's what Labour's going to bring upon themselves and bring upon the country.